Guys, it's Sarah, and today we're doing a mid-month wrap-up. And I don't normally do them. I usually wait until the end of the month, but for some reason this month I have read so much already, and we're only halfway through. We still have 2 more weeks to go, week and a half or so, but I do plan to finish up a few more before the end of the month. So because I've already read 6 books, I figured I would go ahead and talk about them now. And then at the end of the month, I will go through the rest of the books that I end up reading. I just didn't want my wrap up this month to be super long. And since I've been talking more in depth about my thoughts and feelings on the books, it's made my wrap ups a little bit longer, which is fine. But for comparison, last month I read 8 books total. And this month we're halfway through and I've already read 6. So more will be coming. And I think I just wanted to go ahead and get these talked about now, and then we'll cover the rest of them later. I think I'm just going to do that every month, kind of in the middle of the month. I'll just look and see how many books I've read, and if I feel like I need to do a mid-month wrap-up, I will. But if we get halfway through and I've only read 2 or 3 books, to me, that's not worth doing a full video for, so I'll just wait until the end. So I'm just going to kind of play it by ear every month. Okay, so the first one that I read is a Book of the Month book, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is an adult romance that has been all over the place. And I mean, I could not watch a favorites video without this showing up in someone's favorites video of last year. And I thought it was time to pick it up. I was really in the mood for something quick and easy and fun, and definitely bought into the hype of this one for sure. And I really liked it. Okay, so here's what's happening. This follows Olive, and she is a student slash candidate, if you will, for a STEM program at Stanford University. And so she's a scientist. And she is single and kind of actually getting over a breakup. Finds herself in this awkward position where she is trying to convince her best friend that she has moved on from this breakup. And not that she hasn't moved on, she has, but it was just kind of a little bit of a weird situation, which I don't want to spoil. But she is trying to convince her best friend that she's over this and she's seeing someone else and all these things. And then someone is walking down the hall, and she finds herself in a position where she needs to really prove this to her best friend. And so he rounds the corner and she runs up to him and says, "Can I kiss you, please?" And she just goes for it and kisses him. Doesn't know who it is, doesn't even think about it. She just does it. Turns out this is a professor, and his name is Adam. He has the reputation of being just kind of a not so nice guy and making things difficult for a lot of people, and she's completely mortified when she realizes who she just kissed. So Olive goes on to explain to him why she just kissed him, what's going on, and they end up coming to an agreement where they are going to fake date. So it's going to serve Olive's purpose of convincing her best friend that she's over this guy, and it's going to serve a purpose for him as well. He has a reason that it would be good for him to have a girlfriend and to have a little bit of stability. So they decide to do this together, and they play this charade. And in that, you see them grow closer, and obviously some actual real feelings start developing and all that. So it's kind of your classic romance that way. Okay, my thoughts. First, I loved it. I did. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be, which was fun and easy and funny. And I did really, really enjoy the characters. Partway through the book, I kept thinking, I don't know about this. I wasn't fully convinced the whole way through that this was going to be a 5-star read for me, because there was 100% miscommunication in here. And it was one of those miscommunication tropes that was a little bit frustrating, but I also kind of got it. But I was like, but still, everything would be so much easier if you would just tell the actual situation that's going on and stop lying to people. But throughout this, there was one paragraph in this book that made it click for me, and I went, oh, got it. And I'm okay. One paragraph, and it was inner dialogue, and I was like, oh, now it makes sense. I got it. So the frustration for me disappeared at that point. And it made it make sense to me, even though miscommunication is not a trope I enjoy, but I understood why in here. And all it took was one inner dialogue, which I wish more books would do. So that was an interesting journey for me. And I like that this book challenged me with the miscommunication trope that I don't normally like, and that it got me to understand it a little bit and got me to think about it. So I really like that. And there was also a love scene in here that I felt was very awkward. And there was this basically allusion to our main character who there was something about her with her in a sexual situation where it's mental and all these things, but it was just kind of like lightly brushed over. And I'm like, if you're not going to explore that or explain it a little bit better, then why even have it in there? Like, that wasn't a checkbox that we needed in this book. And it just, I don't know, it felt like it was kind of forcing something in there that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to her character because it was never really brought up and discussed before that. So it was just kind of like, all right, I don't know. Like it was weird. And I think that whole aspect of it made her be very much inside her head the whole time during this love scene. And it kind of ruined it for me a little bit. So like, I was so excited for this love scene that was finally happening. And I felt like, did she even enjoy herself? Like, I don't really know. So it was just it was a little interesting in that way. So that part I didn't love. And that was literally one scene, but I don't know. Overall, I ended up giving it 5 stars. I did. I probably could have knocked off a star because of that and because of the whole miscommunication thing leading up to it, even though I got it. But I still ended up on a 5 because I liked that it challenged me that way and that it kind of changed my mind a little bit on that. So I did give it 5. More time away from it, I could probably lower it a little bit, but I won't. So the hype is real. I really enjoyed it. And I definitely want to read more from her. I'm definitely keeping this one on my shelves. The next one that I read is a review book that I got an ARC for last year. And I actually ended up listening to the audiobook of it because I got that from Libro FM. And that is The Paris Library. This is by Janet Skesling Charles. There were actually 3 narrators for this book, and they were Nikki Diss, Sarah Feathers, and Esther Wayne. So this one is a dual timeline, and we are following our main character, Odeline, and she is a librarian in Paris during World War II. And she is very passionate about her job. She's very passionate about books and about the whole organization of the library. And it's just her life's passion. And you see her making friends there. And you see her starting a relationship with a man who is a soldier. And you're really following her trying to semi-fight back when the Germans are coming in and trying to really ban books and to limit access to books to different types of people and really just have control over what people are not only getting access to, but what they are reading. And so you see her struggle with trying to not get killed for fighting back on that, but also struggling, to try to make sure everybody has access because that is her job. You also follow a more current timeline where Odeline is also present. She is older. She's living in Montana, and she is connecting and building a relationship and a friendship with a young girl who lives next door to her. So I'll say this. I kind of wish this were just told in the past timeline because that's where the story was. I didn't really feel like the current timeline was necessary at all. I don't feel like it really served a purpose. And it kind of took me out of the story every time we went back to Montana because I just kind of didn't care. I didn't really feel connected to this young girl and what she was doing and going through and the connection she was making with Odeline. It just really didn't resonate with me at all. So I kind of wish it had all been told just in the past timeline and we just got that overall story instead of going back and forth. And overall, I never really felt connected to any of the characters, to be honest with you. There were a few sad parts, but I just kind of was like, all right, I'm getting the story and it's cool and that's fine. I never really felt a connection to them. And, even a couple weeks later after reading this, I kind of have forgotten a lot about it. It's just not something I ever really think about, or the characters or anything like that. So it didn't have like a huge impact on me. There was also a lot in here about the Dewey Decimal System, and that kind of got a little bit distracting after a while, because she would be talking about a certain topic and she would throw in like the Dewey Decimal number for that. I'm like, okay, I took a class on the Dewey Decimal System and that thing is complicated. Like it really actually is. And for her to have that completely memorized, I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm not saying no one can do it. I'm sure there are some people who have it memorized, but like, not me, that's for sure. So that got a little bit distracting. So I will say that there is content warnings in here. There is some sexual abuse that happens in here, like attacks and stuff. So something to be wary of. It wasn't like a huge aspect of the story, but it is in there, like German soldiers and all that kind of stuff. So I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was an enjoyable listen. I didn't mind listening to it, but overall, it's just not something that's going to stick with me. So I'm going to pass this one on. The next one that I picked up is a book that was sent to me for our Christmas book exchange. This one was sent from Amanda, and I read The Red Bandanna. This is by Tom Rinaldi, and this is the true story of a young man named Wells Crowther who saved lives on 9/11. Wells is famously known as the man in the red bandana because he had a red bandana on when he was helping people get to safety in the South Tower on 9/11. He worked in the South Tower. So obviously he was there when the plane hit. He worked on the 104th floor, I believe. And his big thing that he's really accredited for his heroism is on the 78th floor of the tower, there is this lobby area where you can get onto the elevators to go down to the lobby. So there was like almost 2 sets of elevators in the World Trade Center. So you don't just get on one elevator and go all the way to the top. You have to go to like a lobby and then you get on a second set and then go the rest of the way if you need to. So the 78th floor was where a lot of people were gathered and waiting to get into the elevators as they were evacuating, because the second plane had not hit yet, and so they were still able to use the elevators and, get to safety. The plane hit as people were standing there waiting, and one of the wings actually went through that lobby and killed a lot of people at one time. Wells Crowther was accredited for getting people who had survived that out of that area and was taking them down the stairs and getting them to safety and getting them to a spot where he could go back up. So he would take a couple people down and he went back up and said, I'm going to go get some more people. And he was, I can't even imagine that bravery. I don't know that I could do that. And when you're reading this book, you're seeing that's kind of always how he's been, and that a lot of people who knew him and loved him weren't surprised that he was doing that. So this book takes you through a lot of his life, starting with his childhood and things that happened to him when he was young and growing up, and, where he went to college and schools and, all these different types of things. You're hearing stories from his family and his friends and his teammates and all that kind of thing. He wanted to be a firefighter. He actually was planning to change his career from Wall Street in the South Tower to become a New York firefighter. He had already started filling out the application to do that when 9/11 happened. And so when he had already been a volunteer firefighter, so he already had some experience with, helping and just helping people and getting them to safety and things. He already had some of that experience. So when the planes hit, he immediately went to that. And he did. He saved lives. And so you see what happens in here. You see how things were pieced together after the fact. And it was incredible. It really was. I did not read this quickly, and I don't think you should. Even though this is a very small book, I thought maybe I could kind of fly through it, but I couldn't, because it's very, very emotional. And it's something you really just kind of have to take in and have to process. But it was so fantastic. It was really, really well done. And I used quite a few book darts in here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but I used quite a few in here, just marking some things that were just incredibly whoa. you know, some of those coincidences that like, there's a reason I don't believe in coincidences, but you know, just kind of that type of stuff. So it was incredible. I also, after I finished this book, I did go on YouTube and I found a couple of documentaries that highlight Wells and what he did and stuff like that. So I will leave a couple of those linked down below if you guys are interested in seeing that. If you've read this book and you want to get a little bit more context into him, or if you don't want to read the book and you just want to see his story, you can do that as well. So I will leave those linked down below if you guys are interested in that. But fantastic, 5 stars, keeping for myself. For real. Okay, the next one I read is a 5-star prediction, so I'm not going to go into my thoughts and feelings. I'll just tell you a little bit about it, but that is The Life We Bury. This is by Alan Eskins. This is another one that was sent to me for a Christmas book exchange from Lindsay a couple of years ago, but I finally read it. And this one follows a college student. His name is Joe. He is assigned to tell someone else's story. So he has to write a paper based on someone else's life. So he has to interview somebody and get their life story and put it down on paper. And it's for an English class that he's in. So he doesn't have anyone in his life that he can really interview, that he could just go to easily. So he ends up at a nursing home and asking, is there anyone here who you think would be willing to help me out with this project? And he ends up getting teamed up with a man named Carl, who was medically paroled from prison. He had been serving in prison and he got medically paroled because he has cancer and he's terminal, like doesn't have that much longer. So they medically paroled him and put him in this nursing home, and here's where he's going to just live out the rest of his life for the next couple months. The interesting thing about Carl is that he was serving time for murder. Murder. So that's an interesting story, right? And so you're going through with Joe and listening to Carl's story and things that were happening. He's also a Vietnam War vet, and so you're getting kind of all that. Now, I'm not going to tell you my thoughts and feelings yet. We're going to save that for my 5-star prediction wrap-up, which will be coming up next week. So I'm going to save it for that, but I did read it. So I'm going to go back to this one for just a second. Now, while I was reading this, I was sent this, like I said, from Amanda. And the first day that we did our unwrappings, we did 2 books apiece. And so we numbered them and, you know, all that. So I had books like 1 and 2 or 3 or 4. I don't remember what number this was, but this one was packaged up with another one that kind of had a same theme, if you will. And so I opened those 2 together, right? So the clue for this one in our book exchange was A Great American. And then the clue for this one was A Great American Read. And these came, like, I opened these 2 at the same time in the same video. Okay, right? So pretty cool. Awesome. Love the play on that. Now I'm reading this one, and Toni Morrison is mentioned in this one because as a volunteer firefighter, Wells Crowther answered a call. He was on a team that answered a call for a house that was on fire near his hometown that was owned by Toni Morrison. I was like, what? Like, hold up. So she's mentioned in here. He saw her but didn't get to meet her, like talk to her or anything. And she wasn't present when the fire was happening. She came after the fact. But like in here, I'm reading this and I'm like, Toni Morrison. And I got Beloved. And I opened them on the same day, and like Amanda kind of grouped them together, not knowing any of this. It was just kind of definitely like a serendipitous moment. So when I saw that, I immediately went and picked this off my cart and put it on my nightstand, and then I read it. I'm trying to listen to things more like that. If I see something or notice something, I'm like, oh, I have that. Let me go grab it. And then I try to read it a little bit earlier. I've been doing that a little bit more, and it's been a lot of fun. So I read Beloved. I listened to this. Toni Morrison herself narrates it. She's a fantastic audiobook narrator. Okay, so guys, I struggle with this one. I don't think I got it fully. Like, I can tell you what the book is about, but as I was listening to it And even if I was reading it with my eyes, I don't think it would have changed my experience at all. I felt like I don't know that I get this book, and I don't know that I'm going to. It's one of those situations where I almost feel like this book is too smart for me. I feel like it's too smart for me. Okay, so this is a great American read, so it's on my list. I'm able to check it off now, which is awesome. But this one follows a family, and they were former slaves. So they were former enslaved people. I believe this takes place in the 1800s. So they have been free. They are living in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it's told in more of a present day timeline, but there are also flashbacks of the family and where they were living, which was called Sweet Home, and which I believe was in Kentucky, maybe. So you're getting the previous timeline and kind of what was happening while they were in this situation told through flashbacks. And here's what really confused me. The flashbacks, each one is told from a different character's perspective. So sometimes you were hearing the same story just from a different character. And I got really confused because I was like, didn't we already have this memory? Or, like, I feel like this character's already been in this situation, but it was really confusing. And then there's a couple characters who have the same name. And so I got really confused on which Paul are we with? I don't know, because like they're both named Paul. And so that was confusing. And I had a really, really hard time keeping all the characters straight. I honestly just didn't fully get it. And that's just going to have to be what it is. And it's fine. I know that this writing style, and I think Toni Morrison in general is not for everybody. And I get that. I think there are people who can read this and love it and completely get it and understand it. I'm just not one of those, and I'm just going to have to be okay with that. I will say that her writing, as far as the way she described things, was really good, and some of the words that she used were really beautiful, and the way that she told this in her audiobook was fantastic. So I did not like listening to it. I did enjoy listening to it. I just don't think my brain fully comprehended the entire story. So it's hard for me to even describe it really well. I don't even know if I'm doing a good job, to be honest with you. So I personally, for my enjoyment and my understanding of the book, I gave it 3 stars. But yeah, but I can say that I have now read Toni Morrison. Will I read more in the future? Probably not, but that's okay. I just don't think she's going to be an author for me, and that's all right. But I can still appreciate good writing when I see it. And yeah, I do not believe I will ever reread this book, so I'm probably going to go ahead and pass it on, but I'm glad I read it. So, okay, last one for this mid-month wrap-up. I just finished Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year because I love Colleen Hoover. I had it pre-ordered as soon as it was available for pre-order, and we actually read this for a book club this month. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about the aspects of the story because I feel like you should go into this not knowing every little detail about what it's even about. I think some things should be left for an element of surprise, which definitely happened for me, which I think helped me enjoy it a lot more. So this follows Kenna and Ledger, and it's their love story. So it is a romance. It's Colleen. But it's a romance with a lot of gray area because it's Colleen. So Kenna has just been released from prison. She served 5 years. I will not tell you why. And she is out of prison. She has a young daughter that she had while she was in prison, actually. And that child was given over to be in the care of someone else. Obviously, because she's in prison, she can't care for a child while she's in prison. And so it's somebody from her hometown. So Kenna decides to, when she gets out, she wants to be reunited with her daughter. She wants to see her. She wants to try to build a relationship with her. Like, she wants her daughter back. She knows it's not going to be that easy, obviously. And so she goes and she tries to get herself a little bit established before she tries to make contact, before anyone knows that she's back. She's actually kind of trying to keep her identity a little bit secret so that, it's like a smaller town. So someone's going to figure out who she is. And she's trying to get herself back on her feet before, trying to approach the parents who are raising her kids and her child. So she's trying to do all this stuff, right? She ends up meeting Ledger, who is a bartender, not a bartender. He owns a bar. And kind of they obviously have like a really strong attraction to each other right off the bat. And they end up getting a little bit close, and then she starts to confide in him like what her situation is and, all that kind of stuff. And he ends up becoming her biggest ally, basically. However, it's a very, very sticky situation. And so there you see a whole lot of struggle coming from everybody in this book. There's a whole lot of struggle happening. And that's all I'm going to say. Okay. Here's the thing. I only gave this book 4 stars. It's probably more like 4.5, like almost a 5. There were 2 things. One of them is super, 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 like just superficial for me. I did not like her daughter's name. I thought it was dumb. Colleen can come up with some creative names. I will say that. Most of them I like, but I did not like her daughter's name in here. And I won't spoil that either. It's a whole story. But I did not like it. I thought it was stupid. So every time I had to read the name, I was just like, I don't know. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And the other thing that dragged this down a little bit for me was the ending. I felt like it was a little too quick. Like, I felt like it was too quick and it was a little too easy. And I would have loved just another even like 30, 40 pages with a little bit more of that struggle, which I can't talk about because I don't want to ruin the book. But if you've read it, then I wanted more of that struggle with certain characters. And I don't feel like it wasn't presented to us that way. And I feel like it just made me miss out on that. And I think it would have made it a lot better and just made it not so easy for the reader. Honestly, like I wanted to have a harder time with it. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't expect Colleen so much to have such a easy ending. I expect her to make you think about it more and to question things a lot more. And yeah, so because of that, I did drop it down to a 4, more like 4.5. But I did love it. I loved Kenna and Ledger and their chemistry for sure. Like I felt it definitely. And I love Ledger. I do. He has my whole heart. So, okay. But read one of my most anticipated books of the year. So I'm very, very happy about that. And I did love it. I did. Just those 2 little things, but it's still Colleen. I still loved it. Definitely keeping it. Hey, 6 books down, guys. Whew. Wow. 6 books down, and more to come. So I will have another wrap up in another couple weeks. It'll probably be like the first weekend in March, I'm guessing, because I want to give myself all of February, obviously. And based on when I'm able to film, it'll probably be the first weekend in March that I have my final February wrap up for you. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. Have you read any of these? Are you going to pick any of them up? Are you going to skip any of them now? Let me know that. And yeah, that's going to be it. So I will talk to you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.